What's up, you guys? Your jack of all games, master of none, Alec is here, and today I'm talking about the Digimon ban list we got last week. I wanted to talk about it a little bit sooner, but I was on my way to New York, and I literally saw the list while I was driving to the airport, so while I had plenty of time to react and think about it myself, I didn't really get a chance to share my thoughts with you all. And I wasn't really like that high on this ban list. I felt like the format was fine, but clearly in the comments of my last videos, yeah, you guys disagreed, and that makes sense. I mean, I did have one of the stronger decks of the format, so I really didn't have a big problem with it. But I do think this list solves some issues that we were going to have moving forward. And it has me really excited about this Digimon format that we're entering into. I played in the Evolution Cup the week before this list came out, right when we got the new cards from, what was that, BT17? I think it's BT17. I'm getting my BTs mixed up. Anyway, I got to deal with the new Ancient Gurumon deck and some other newer strategies. And yeah, I feel like we needed this. But we'll talk as we go. So effective on August 31st, so that's in 2 days from when I'm recording this. What we got? So promo Ukamon goes to 1. Everybody knew that Ukamon had to be dealt with in some way, shape, or form. It was kind of obscene, and I'm not just talking about the way that it helps Numan just outpace every deck in the format. I mean, any deck that wasn't married to its level 3s or didn't have many level 3s to work with were just sliding in Ukamons, but they got worse when you were using both sets of Ukamons. Because I want to say most decks use the non-promo Uko, the one that gives you the search when it pushes up. I actually find that Ukamon isn't that bad. It helps with consistency problems for decks, but it doesn't provide any memory. Promo Ukamon, I think, was the problem child, because if you're running promo, you are also running non-promo, and if you were running Louis, oh my god, the memory gain and the aggression you were getting off with the combination of those 3 cards was just intense, and a lot of decks couldn't deal with it. I felt like, every format has a gatekeeper. I felt like both Ukos and Louis were the gatekeeper of the last format. But I really like Bandai Banlist because they always give us write-ups on why cards get hit, and it gives you a good idea of what's going through their minds when they're deciding what to do about a format. So, P123 Ukomon. It was intended for this card to be a card that could be combined with Louis Owada, that's the promo Louis, and used in a variety of decks, but the importance of this card turned out to be much bigger than predicted, as it increases the speed of control decks that don't require level 3 and provides many options by securing memory. As a result, there's a difference in power between decks that can use this card and those that can't, resulting in a loss of diversity in the decks that can be used. For the above reasons, we have decided to restrict this card to 1 per deck. I think that goes into how I said, these Ukomon decks were the gatekeepers of the format. They just put the game on a speed that a lot of regular, more honest decks couldn't really operate at. Either you could move as fast as these decks, or you had countermeasures for these decks, but that's how it had to be. So I think Ukamon was choking a lot of people out of the format. Next up is Louis Owada, also going to 1. By repeatedly combining the effects that aren't once per turn, such as Mat Ishii does, that's the Gabaan Mat, the one where if you push up Gabumons and Garurumons, you gain a memory, and I think you draw. So with this card's on play effect, the game speed accelerates dramatically, making it difficult for many decks to compete. That's exactly what I was getting at before. Because various decks use countermeasures against this combination, I'm thinking Digimon Emperor, decks that are strongly affected by the countermeasures are no longer able to perform as effectively as they should, resulting in a loss of diversity in the decks being used. So yeah, the thing that comes to mind for me the most is Digimon Emperor, and Digimon Emperor steals memory whenever you push up a level 3. And a lot of people are running Digimon Emperor in all of their tournament lists because Ukomon and Louis were so prominent, but that also affected many decks that just want to push up their rookies. They don't want to have to wait an extra turn to push up a bigger mon. They want to be able to push up their rookies and get value. I think I noticed this the most when I was playing 3 Great Angels. Not Yellow Vaccine, but 3 Great Angels. A deck that still wants to be able to push up their Patamon and get some amount of value off of it. But, all these Digimon Emperors are just catching my Patamons left and right. Now, some would say that's what you get for playing Patamon, but there are many other decks that want to be able to push out their rookies. And if every deck in a tournament is running 2 and 3 Emperors, it can become impossible to do that. So they have to play around this. And it's a pain because they're not running it for you. They're running it for Ukan shenanigans, and you just get caught in the crossfire. So yeah, I do like seeing Ukan and Louis going to 1. That's gonna seriously hamper a lot of the Uko deck strategies. It's not gonna completely kill them. Like, I do think Numan will still be played. I don't think it will be quite as powerful. And there's more reasons why Numan won't be quite as powerful. But I played against, I talked about earlier, but Ancient Garurumon, the new blue hybrid list. And it's obscene what that deck can do to you in like 2 turns. Like, the sheer amount of damage they can get out so fast. Damage that you can't even answer because it comes off of their tamers, and their Digimon can be unblockable. So it's really hard to interact with that in any meaningful way. And a lot of them were running a red base to use red eggs because Ukamon doesn't care what your colors are, and there's good synergy with, I forget the red rookies they're running, but they can get simple draw, simple like floodgate popping effects. That wasn't the intention of the blue hybrid Ancient Garurumon strategy, but why not? Because running Ukos and things in that deck is way more beneficial than running the proper Strabimons, who aren't bad. It's just, why bother? The next hit is a card I've wanted to see hit for so long. I guess that does. I'm a hater. I'm a hater for this card. Hammer Spark going to 1. This card can be used in decks that include blue cards for a long time, but the increased variety of cards available now allows for more card drawing, making it possible to have multiple cards in the hand and use them consecutively in 1 turn. As a result, it has been easier to speed up the game, widening the gap between decks that can use this card and others. For the above reasons, we decided to limit it to 1. Yeah, so Hammer Spark, I've never liked Hammer Spark, but kind of what they got at before, Hammer Spark in the past wasn't that bad unless you were checking it in security and getting your turn passed. Because we didn't have as much card draw when this card came out. If you and your opponent are playing a very scrappy game, you were probably playing 1 or 2 cards per turn, and at best, Hammer Spark was giving you a 3rd card to play, or enabling you to play that 2nd card. So the extension off the Hammer Spark wasn't insane in the past. But these blue decks have been strong for a long time, and it's not because of Hammer Spark. A lot of blue decks are very consistent, and they have plenty of card draw. And you combining all the cards you get plus the free memory you can get with Hammer Sparks, it just meant you could explode on your opponent. Even if you didn't have the cards you needed when your turn started, you could just draw into the pieces and get your free Hammer Sparks off, and now you have an intense combo. Actually, I really do like seeing Hammer Spark go. I remember I got obliterated by an Ancient Guru list during that Evolution Cup. Not because they were running Hammer Spark, but boy did Hammer Spark help. So seeing it go to 1, that's cool. It makes it more of a top deck swingy card. It may or may not show up. And honestly, not a lot of lists that I've seen in the past were running that many copies of Hammer Spark. So I don't think blue decks are really hurting, but I don't really know what people are really planning to do for this coming format. So maybe they were running 4 Hammer Sparks. Anyway, fair hit. Speaking of fair hits, the next one is one I saw coming a mile away. Awakening of the Golden Knight. This is the card that enabled the yellow vaccine deck to run Magna X because Awakening Golden Knight lets any of your armor form Digimon digivolve into a Magnamon. So it was the perfect bridge for the unholy nightmare that was yellow vaccine armors. So this card used in decks that mainly use BT16 Magnamon X antibody, which has a high usage rate in recent game environments. Yeah, because if you could use Magnamon X, you definitely should. When combined with cards such as level 3s that support Digivolution, Patamon, it was possible to keep BT16 Magnamon X on the board early and move toward attacking. Yeah, so the yellow vaccine deck had an insane high roll situation where because Patamon could digivolve into a level 4 in your security for free, you could ramp up into Magna X with this card on turn 2 and immediately get 2 checks off with just it itself. And now it's a invulnerable body that's going to be there for the rest of the game. it puts your opponent on a clock, and it does not feel good at all in those situations. Yellow Vaccine felt like the best deck of the format. Now, that's not the case. Anyone who's paid attention knows that Numan was the best deck of the last format, and maybe the best deck of the format before that. Anyway, but this was certainly a problem, and it was the gatekeeper at a lot of people's lists because you didn't usually have too many like Yellow Vaccine Magna players at the locals unless you had a very competitive one. But a lot of decks struggled to answer this guy. And the worst part was it was being used in a deck where it was not really meant to be. So the above play is very powerful and creates situations that many decks can't handle, and so they put it at 1. Yeah, this kind of kills the Yellow Vaccine armor strategy just because you won't have easy access into the Magna X anymore. You could run the regular Magnamons with the Rapid Mons, run 1 copy of this card, and maybe it still works. But you completely lose that turn 2 like powerhouse play that happened more consistently than it should have. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good solid hit to that deck. Yellow Vaccine will have to find other ways to play from now on, and there's reasons why further down the list. Numan X. So Numan X Antibody was a huge card for the Numan deck, just giving all of your, it's more card draw because it's the next antibody, but also you have more floating effects just going around, so your boards are just sticky. When you try and answer a Numan board with deletion effects, ha! When you use DP minus, ha! I mean, you could bounce things, but oftentimes they had so many bodies on board, unless you had mass bounce removal, it wasn't really effective. And a lot of that is because Numan X just guarantees you a body on board. What did they say about it? When using Numan decks, this card has high board retention from the beginning of the game, and its inherited effect can be reused when combined with other cards, allowing this single card to significantly increase the ability to control the entire deck. Yeah, that's right. In addition, since a level 6 can also be played by its effect, it's easy to digivolve from there to level 7, which is a higher output to create a one-sided control board at an early stage. I actually got bamboozled by this, but at my old shop, we had a fairly good Numan player, and he hit me with this deck when I really didn't know what it did, and I had to look at this card like very hard. I'm like, wait, it's just any card with Numan in its name? Uh-oh. For the reasons stated above, we expect this card will play a very large role in the deck, resulting in a loss of diversity in the cards included. For the above reasons, we decided to restrict this card to 1 per deck. I mean, X antibodies have ended up on this ban list many times. It's just X's are pretty good, just in general. Numan X, I don't think is so much worse than every other X antibody card we have. It's just that the Numan deck, I think, overperformed than what Bandai was expecting. And something had to go. And I think of all the cards that are currently in the Numan deck, Numan X is the best hit. Speaking of best hits, BT14 TK Tekashi. This one hurt my soul because you guys know I love playing yellow decks. But I understand TK was a problem. TK cost 3 to play, but its effect of taking something out of security and placing a vaccine in always triggers its second effect, which gains you a memory. So you could functionally play TK for just 2 memory, which leads to many memory choking situations. But to make matters worse, or better if you're the one playing it, every time you got an additional TK on board, that's just even more memory every time you interact with your security. I mean, I've done that in Yellow Vaccine, I've done that in Mastermind. TK Tekashi is just an amazing tamer. I think of it a lot like Cool Boy, just a tamer that can give you a lot of value for very, very low commitment, but also being a part of the, the very toxic Yellow Vaccine deck. Something had to get hit, and I honestly think that it was probably between TK or Patamon. And I think if they would have hit Patamon, that sets like the yellow as a whole back, a few paces, just because we don't really have a lot going in yellow. And then by hitting TK, that stops that variant of Yellow Vaccine from going crazy. And I think it opens us up for new options in the future. So while I hate to see TK go, mostly because I went and got, I think, 3 alt arts of it, but I mean, I get it. That's fair. Having multiples of this card makes it easy to continuously and significantly increase memory, guaranteeing stability in yellow vaccine decks and others that use this card. Also, this card's role through the entire game becomes significant since the effect, which increases or decreases the security cards, can be activated for a low memory cost. God, did I love that. With combining this with Patamon and combining this with Magnamon, just amazing. It's a perfect card for both of them, and essentially you play it for 2. On top of this, having memory gained after recovery effects lets the player do more and makes matches take excessively longer. Yeah, sometimes in the yellow vaccine deck, especially when you had like 2 TKs on board with a full board of Digimon, you start proccing so many different effects. You're gaining so much advantage. Your Magnamon is huge, and you can kind of just see the life leave your opponent's eyes, and you're just like, well, I still have 4 memory left. I gotta keep going. You wouldn't just win, you would kind of dominate in those situations, so I do get it. What else? Restricted cards that will be lifted. So Star Deck 6 Gabumon, our boy who did nothing wrong. I remember when this Gabumon got hit, I was very confused by it, but now that Digimon has moved on a little bit further, I get it, because I can just look at this guy and I see what the issue is. Yeah, it draws one and trashes one when attacking, but it has no once per turn clause on it. And we were going into a format where, that Gabumon, or the stack that it's in, was going to be able to attack multiple times in a turn, letting you draw and trash, setting up your trash, setting up your hand. And that was a lot of advantage for purple decks, but also Garurumon decks. Because if you're playing purple, your trash is just as much of a resource as your hand is, and you're setting up both these things at the same time. Yeah, the Gabumon I think it was kind of a cautionary hit. It didn't need to be hit, but it was probably safer for the time. Now, I don't know what is it about the format we're entering in that Gabumon's safe now. Maybe it's because of Ace Digimon. It's way more risky to, just swing multiple times at your opponent. There was always a danger of like security bombs, but now Ace Digimon make you have to think twice about getting aggressive. I mean, maybe that's it. What did they say? In past game environments, when this card was widely used, by combining it with a Digimon that had an effect that let it attack consecutively and activating its inherited effect that doesn't have a once per turn multiple times, it increased the speed and consistency of decks that made use of the trash. However, as the card pool has increased in recent game environments, there are now more ways to suppress attacks. Because of this, we have determined that it has become more difficult to consistently activate this card multiple times compared to before. Therefore, we have decided to change this card from restricted to unrestricted. So, guys, this is our chance to prove Bandai wrong. What are we gonna cook that abuses this guy? I'm not that kind of a player. I'm gonna let you guys figure that out, and I'll be on Reddit and everywhere else to see what you guys come up with. But yeah, that is the latest Digimon Banlist update. I just want to say that I think this was a very good list. The 2 main decks that hit here were Numan and X Antibody, and then there's some decks that caught strays because they like playing Ukamons too. But yeah, I think it was a fact that Numamon was the best deck of last format. I think it's a fact that Yellow Vaccine was a top 3 deck of the last format. Now, some people will push back and say it was the best deck or the second best deck. I honestly do not think that. The Yellow Vaccine deck had a very big problem with being kind of high rolly, and by high rolly I mean where your Patamon hits and you make a turn 2 Magna X. That is the situation no deck wants to be set up against, and it's very good, but there's a lot of times where you just didn't see your Patamon, or you saw your Patamon and your Patamon missed because you didn't have the TK in hand. Those low roll situations, while are still good against, more honest, slower decks, would not cut it against, the other top decks of the format. I think even when you high roll with the Yellow Vaccine deck, the Ukamon deck can match you step for step, and then it becomes kind of a coin toss to see who gets the most advantage before, it's all over with. I think you're forced to high roll against Imperial Dramon. Like, if you don't high roll, you just don't have a shot. And I think that because it could low roll the way it did, I would only call it a top 3 deck. What you want to call it a second deck, I mean, you could call it Imperial, you can call it Mirage. It could be either of those. I just think overall those were stronger decks in that format than Yellow Vaccine was. people are calling for hits to like newer strategies. Like some people think that these hits weren't enough to like stop Imperial or Ancient Garurumon. Well, I don't think that's what they were really trying to stop. I mean, hitting Ukan does affect Ancient Garurumon, but I still think Ancient Garurumon will do fine going forward, so I don't think that's really going to be a problem. But yeah, I'm really excited to play Digimon again. I've got some new decks built. I'm glad my Mastermon deck went unchanged. Then again, I guess if you were running like the yellow base version of Mastermon, then you losing out on those TKs is a bit of a pain. I have to check my list. I don't think I was running that TK in my list. So cool, you know. But yeah, guys, I'll keep you updated on anything new that happens with Digimon, anything different that I do. And yeah, let me know how you guys are feeling about the list. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Pass turn.